9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
Awake thou that sleepest. Arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed!
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ and fellow earth travelers. Along with Mr. Anderson and Honor Mama Jeannie, you're listening to your Last Call, 2 hours of Christian talk radio with a sting. Brought to you by the Natural Family Foundation. As goes the family, so goes the nation. Our call-in number, if you wish to participate, is 614-423-4220. Our show can be accessed on the mmunited.org website if you've happened upon us by chance. I'm your host, B.J. Edwards, and this is my world. Are Christians born that way? Heredity versus environment. Always an interesting discussion. And does the DNA lie? Does it change? Wow. Last week I was pledging allegiance to the family, and today I think I've got an even better idea. So stay tuned. Saturday morning's Christian Talk Radio with a sting.
Ouch.
Call in number 614-423-4220. Love to hear from some of you today. Access the program, mmunited.org. If you just want to listen, 605-475-0017. You know, sometimes we get envious of other people. And just for a moment or two, think that we'd like to be in their shoes. Well, this morning, I would not want to be in the shoes of John H. Schnatter. Who is John Schnatter?
Yeah, who is he?
Well, we all know him as Papa John. And of course, maybe you didn't hear about this, Mr. Anderson. The good father is rumored to have used a racial slur in an online conference call earlier this year. And of course, John's career at Papa John's, regardless of whether he did it or not, is now over with. And I wouldn't want to be in Papa John's shoes. You know, we're in such sorry shape as a nation. And I have to see, we're so sorry that I have to preface my next statements with the assurance that I'm not encouraging or making fun of or discouraging any behavior here. Wow. First of all, in America today, you can walk down any street, in any neighborhood, and blaspheme the name of God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can damn him, disparage him, discriminate, make fun of him, bully his followers. And you can yell at the top of your voice. But God help you if you happen to simply murmur an N word. Folks, we got to stop picking this scab. Think about what's going to happen to Papa John because of what he did. He didn't get caught with pornography or with another man's wife. He used a racial slur, which apparently is the capital crime in America. You can lie in Congress, you can steal, you can cheat, You can change your sex, but God help you. God help you if you use a racial slur.
Isn't that a word they use among themselves?
Typical white guy response. Typical white guy response. You're probably a Christian too, right? Yeah.
I am a typical white guy, yeah.
I was really hoping Jesse Lee Peterson would be on our show today. He will be on soon, but I'd love to have him today and hear what he thinks about all this. I'm sure you get a very interesting opinion from a black pastor.
Yep.
And of course, Papa John is a white guy, which of course proves without the shadow of a doubt that all us white guys, especially the older Christian ones,
me?
are inherently racist. It's in their DNA. It's in our DNA, right? By the way,
No.
more on that DNA thingy this morning. Mr. Anderson, with all the acting that's going on in Washington, D.C., especially in the Senate and House chambers these days.
You called it acting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It seems to be a theatric.
Yeah. My understanding is Hollywood is getting a bit concerned, jealous, if you will. Seems that the thespians around the White House, and there's a lot of auditioning going on, by the way, they have great fictional storylines and are being cast and directed with great productions before large potential donors. Speaking of entertainers, Stormy Daniels, you know who she is, was arrested in Columbus, Ohio this past week. Seems that she was partaking of some extracurricular activity at a local strip club with a patron that happened to be an undercover cop of the female persuasion, by the way. From her lawyer, Michael Avenatti. Just received word that my client, Stormy Daniels, was arrested in Columbus, Ohio, while performing the same act she has performed across the nation at nearly 100 strip clubs. Folks, are we not in trouble? We're defending, yes, that's right, strippers. We're defending strippers.
And believing them.
Papa John could have been a stripper. Go ahead.
Just, believing her word over a president of the United States. Come on.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. According to Michael, the lawyer, this was a setup and politically motivated. It reeks of desperation. We will fight all bogus charges. For those of you who don't know, the police chief of Columbus, Ohio, is a flaming homosexual.
Lesbian.
And the mayor of Columbus loves to host the annual Gay Pride Parade and seems to have a permanent seat at their floats. Let me make this perfectly clear. Stormy broke a local ordinance. However, she, like Hillary, Stock, Obama, and others, will never be rightfully punished for what she's done. America just doesn't seem to have an appetite for righteousness. Mr. Anderson, we got a lot of territory to cover this morning. A lot.
It's an interesting world out there.
Supreme Court picks, President Trump, as usual, controversial. This time kind of to the religious conservative crowd versus his loyal opposition by his nomination of Kavanaugh. According to Mike Huckabee from our independent research staff, Judge Brett Kavanaugh of D.C. Court of Appeals is there to replace Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court. Kavanaugh's rulings include findings that the government's mass gathering of metamedia doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment, and abortion rights are settled law in Roe versus Wade. This is going to play out to be very, very interesting. Kavanaugh has a long history of reliability non-activist rulings that were held up by SCOTUS. Trump read off his sterling resume, educated at Yale, teaches law at Yale, Harvard, Georgetown, former law clerk, Justice Kennedy. Kavanaugh talked to love at his family. And I'm all in for that. You know that. and his devotion to the community and the Constitution, with his goal of giving all cases a fair hearing. He was appointed to the D.C. court by George Bush. That concerns me. George doesn't have a real good record in terms of personnel. And was hired to teach at Harvard Law. Now, I'm still simmering a bit from the president's last budget approval and hoping that this pick, once approved by the Senate, will prove not to be another Kennedy, which he is replacing, and what I fear the most. We don't need another Kennedy. Time will tell, or perhaps it already has. Curious choice to say the least, at least from my standpoint. Dateline, Washington, D.C. Yesterday, the Get the President However You Can and assume he colluded with the Russians Select Committee, marched out one of their top leaders, Rod Rosenstein, to announce that the Russians had actually tried to disrupt the 2016 DNC primary election. It appears that several servers were hacked, and the spokesman said, of course, it was to benefit Donald Trump, although he wasn't even an official candidate at the time.
Oh, connect the dots.
So there it is, a foreign country trying to interfere with another country's election. What is so ironic is that the person ultimately responsible for the protection of the American parties in this 2016 incident was the President of the United States himself. No, that wasn't Donald Trump. That was Barack Obama, who, incidentally, was the same leader of America who personally tried to affect the election of another foreign country, Israel.
Yep.
I'm telling you what, with all the goings on, we really need to have the government start printing programs and assigning numbers to all the players. In many cases, those numbers should actually be prisoner numbers, but they won't be. Folks, with all due respect, nothing's going to happen to any of the bad guys and gals because America just doesn't have, you do not have an appetite for righteousness.
No moral backbone.
If it offends you, if you're upset about it, stop being a barking dog in the parade, please. Last week I recommended you call local news media. Question them on their assumptives and their propaganda and their promotion. You got to start somewhere. You got to start someplace. Practice makes perfect. If you don't practice, well, you practice at doing nothing, you'll be perfect at doing nothing. Wow, is Washington, D.C. incestuous or what?
There you go, using big words again.
Speaking of criminals, we got to go to a break here? No, we don't. Okay.
Got a minute.
Okay. Here's some good news. President Trump has intervened in one of the most sensitive political battles in the American West, pardoning 2 Oregon ranchers whose imprisonment inflamed a protest movement against the government's management of federal land. Constitutionally, the government can't own land. Dwight Hammond, 76, and his son, Stephen Hammond, 49, who ran a ranch in remote eastern Oregon, were serving 5-year prison sentences for arson for setting federal land on fire. The Hammonds are multi-generational cattle ranchers in Oregon, imprisoned in connection with a fire that leaked into a small portion of neighboring public grazing land. Again, public grazing land? The evidence at trial regarding the Hammonds' responsibility for the fire was conflicting, and the jury acquitted them on most of the charges. At the Hammonds' original sentencing, the judge noted that they are respected in the community and that imposing the mandatory minimum 5-year prison sentence would shock the conscience, and he grossly disappropriate to the severity of their conduct. As a result, the judge imposed significantly lesser sentences. However, the previous administration, BO's administration, filed an overzealous appeal that resulted in the Hammonds being sentenced to 5 years in prison. Unjust. Uncalled for. Dwight Hammond is now 76 years old and has served approximately 3 years in prison. In the 70s, a year is very valuable, folks. At any age, but in the 70s.
Big difference.
Steve Hammond is 49 and has served approximately 4 years in prison. They have also paid $400,000 to the United States to settle a related civil suit. The Hammonds are devoted family men, respected contributors to their local community, and have widespread support for their neighbors, local law enforcement, and farmers, ranchers across the West. Justice was overdue for Dwight and Steve Hammond, both of whom are directly deserving of these grants of executive clemency. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Going to take a quick break. You can go ahead and take that call. Caller, hang in there with us. We're going to take a quick break. And then love to hear your comments. This is B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call. Wow. What a world we live in today.
Discussion, and so much more. Last Call with B.J. Edwards on WTVOradio.com.
It's all a circus and way too many clowns. I agree with you, David, but we shouldn't be laughing. This is in pretty sad shape. Caller, you're on the phone with B.J. Edwards and Mr. Anderson. Hope you're doing well this morning. What's on your mind? First name, please.
Good morning to you both. This is Don.
Hi, Don.
I just wanted to call in and give a little story about this morning. I was out passing out the natural family folder things, and so I went into this filling station. I was standing in line, so the guy in front of me had a tattoo on his leg, and the tattoo said family. So when he was leaving, I grabbed hold of him and it says here, I have a friend that's got a Natural Family Foundation order. I see you're into family. Take this and read it over and let us know what you think. And everything. So I passed out about 5 of them this morning, but I thought that one was a little unique situation.
Isn't God something? Don, isn't God something? You have that in hand, and you got somebody there with a tattoo of family on the leg. That's incredible. You know, and Don, families are so important, and you know that. We all know that, but we should appreciate it more. It's just so critical to our well-being. It's the foundation of a nation. Boy, it isn't going to take much to get me going. But first of all, Don, I appreciate, and if somebody wants some of our trifold brochures, they're very nice, very professionally done. Send a great message. Contact us. You can get a hold of BJ on the Facebook page, just I am me, or 614-899-1414. Give me a call. Be more than happy to help you out. I want to share something. I want to share something with you.
MMUnited.org.
Yeah, okay.
You can get in touch there, or naturalfamilystrong.com.
Let me jump in 1 minute, please.
Go ahead.
Let me jump back in. For any of you that do get these to pass them out, it is beneficial if you will carry them in your car, because I kept leaving mine at the house, and when I left, I would always forget to take them with me. So I decided finally to put them in my car, so wherever I go, I've got them there. If I see something, I'm be able to be Johnny on the spot with them.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I do have them in my car, but sometimes I'll go out and take a walk, and I won't take them with me. And every time that I don't take them with me, guess what? There's an opportunity. So I got to strap them to my belt, get myself a backpack or that little fanny thing that you put around you.
Those cute little loincloth fanny packs.
Okay, at that, it's time for me to get off. Later.
All right, Don, thank you. Hey, I want to share something with all you. I talked to you about talking to the news media. I get a lot, and you do too, a lot of calls from folks that they're selling things, those robocalls, and I always look at those as an opportunity. Now I'll give them once, and I'll tell them to take me off the list. But if they don't take me off the list, then what I do is basically witness to them, and I'll ask them, when I say natural family, what comes to mind? And they're going, what? When I say natural family, what does that mean to you? And I've had some very, very interesting conversations. And I was kind of brought up on the phone. I was in phone sales for decades, so I'm comfortable with it. But I wasn't when I first started, and that doesn't mean you can't be either. And there's always an opportunity out there. Somebody made some marketing calls using my cell phone number, and I got a call from a good citizen the other day saying, "Hey, did you call me about this and that and the other?" I go, "No, sir, I did not. I did not." He says, "Well, you better call Verizon or whoever you're with and let them know that somebody's using your number to make sales calls." And I said, "Thank you very much." But before I hung up, I said, "Do you believe that you were created or that you evolved?" And they said very quickly, "Well, I was created." And I said, "Are you a Christian?" And he goes, "Well, of course I am." And I said, "Let me tell you about the natural family." And I told him about the natural family. I'm going to send him one of our brochures. I told him about the radio program. Might be listening to the radio program this morning. And that would be a blessing if he is. But it doesn't matter. It's for us to do. It's for us to witness. I had where is it? I send out promos for our program on Friday nights, and I send them to maybe sometimes to new Facebook groups. And I got a Facebook request back from one of the prayer-only crowd. And like I said, as is my wont, I post our most recent radio show promo to some new pages on Facebook. The response from, and I'll use this, Juan Doe. "Hello, BJ. We appreciate all that wants to post and contribute to the group, the blank blank of God's prayer group. But please keep in mind that this is a prayer support group. Any post that isn't related to prayer will be deleted. Please read the rules before posting. Blessings." My retort, "Dear Juan, thank you very much for your response. For the record, everything that we do in God's name and what is happening in America today should all be covered by prayer. Amen?"
Amen.
I would also note, I continued, "We're looking for prayer leaders for our group, Natural Family Foundation. The importance of the family cannot be understated, nor can the attack on it be ignored. Hope you will consider coming alongside us and provide the air support we so desperately need in our daily battle against Satan and his children. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me in Ohio at 614-899-1414. We do a Saturday morning radio program, I never quit, Last Call, where we encourage folks to not just pray, but to do. Prayer, like its twin sister faith, is dead without works. Amen? Thanks, and in his name, B.J. Edwards. Last Call. Again, it's second nature to me. And there's things that are second nature to you that you could be doing and maybe aren't. Don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate. Our country can't wait for you to feel comfortable. You know when you're going to feel comfortable, right? When Satan says you can feel comfortable now. You know when Satan says you can feel comfortable? When you're not doing anything. right? When you're not thinking about doing anything. Oh, maybe careful there, Juan. Somebody may not like you if you say that. Oh, wait a minute. You may say the wrong thing. Remember when you did this, Juan? And this happened? Is any of this ringing any bells to you folks out there? For evil to flourish, good men need do only nothing. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act. And you don't have to be a Christian to know and or spread the truth. It's not a closed party. Again, I look forward to those sales calls. I look forward to somebody trying to say to me, hey, not on my website, not on my Facebook page. Yeah, can we have a talk here? We're both on the same page. We're both in the same church. Yet, you want to isolate yourself from everyone else, whether it be prayer only, whether it be abortion, whether it be Sharia law. That's what I love about Larry. I mean, he's all into Sharia law, but he's also, Larry Richardson, he was our guest last week. He's also about promoting other ministries, and we can't do it without other ministries. To be effective, to get to where we need to get to, whether you're pro-life, whether you're pro-straight marriage, whether you're fighting the government, child protective services, whether it's pornography, whether it's abuse, to get to where we need to get to, we need a certain portion of the population. And they don't all have to be Christians. They just all need to recognize that we're in trouble as a nation. Huge trouble.
Comes down to all parts of the body working together.
Yep.
The big toe does a big job.
United. We need to be united. This is we have a porn star. We are. Do you want me to describe porn to you? Huh? You know, we're talking about doing certain things with certain parts of the body that we know is not right. On a regular basis, getting paid for it.
Something about porn and star don't seem to go together.
Oxymoron?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Oh. This is a crazy world. But look, these are opportunities. Those nagging sales call, opportunity. Opportunity. Script out something. If you don't know what to say, contact me. BJ, I'm having trouble with this. They're calling about this. Can you help me? Absolutely. You want to be able to service your caller, your sales call. You want to help them out. What better than sharing the truth with them? I'm glad you called. I'm really glad you called today. No, I don't need your life insurance. No, I've already got major medical. But there's something that I got to share with you. It's important to both of us. As important, if not more so. Did you just lose me? More so than what we're doing.
You're fine. I'm trying to get rid of a hiss.
Do we have snakes listening this morning? Probably.
They're out there.
A house divided cannot stand. You're right, David. You're right. I guess we're out of sync again. Oh, I hate to see that. I don't know whether that's because we've increased the number of listeners. I don't know what causes that. Apologize for it. I can't do anything. There's been a lot of complaints about what's going on with retirement systems. I don't know whether it's Ohio. I'm catching it here on local TV. I wonder how these people feel about paying all the money we are to illegal aliens. bringing families back together that split on purpose so they could abuse the American system. What do you think about that? Well, B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're learning something.
Last Call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life on WTVOradio.com.
B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. I love our listeners. I love our listeners. The comments are just good folks, very good folks. Tell your friends about us. Tell your friends about us. You know, sometimes God uses no-nonsense, salty sailor to get the job done. Appreciating what the man is doing doesn't mean we worship the salty sailor or even desire to like the salty sailor. It doesn't even mean God admires the salty sailor. Maybe he just knows it's necessary for such a time as this. I believe with all my heart that God placed that salty sailor in the White House and gave this nation one more chance in November of 2016. Donald Trump is what he is. But I don't like his tweets. Wow. He's still the man he was before the election. Can you imagine going through every day the news media is picking at you? Your colleagues in the White House, in Congress, in the Senate are picking at you. They're making caricatures of you, ugly. They're accusing things of you and your wife, of your children, every day. When you go on foreign trips, they make fun of you before you ever show up and try to set the table so you are ineffective. Yet, and maybe Donald Trump, no, Donald Trump would have to have a super ego to get through what he's getting through. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There isn't anybody that doesn't believe in themselves strongly that could be doing what he's doing. He'd be questioning himself every day, every hour. I mean, life's too short for this. Come on. So maybe being a little salty, number one, is what he has to be, and number two, it might be what we deserve as a nation. Think about it. He's not like me, but that's okay with me. I don't want to be like him. I will never behave like him. I know we've never had a man like him lead our nation. It's crazy, a little mind-blowing at times. is somehow possible, even the decision to become visually any cell of the organism. And just think about the tremendous potential of this discovery. He adds that 2 Nobel Peace Prizing scientists, even non-stem adult cells, can be epigenetically reprogrammed backward to a state where they can eventually give rise to normal cells, cardiac cells perhaps, cancer cells, muscle cells, insulin-producing cells. What are your thoughts? This is, we don't have to accept what it is we think we were born with in terms of limitations. You know, DNA is like a computer program that is placed into our cells. Every one of our cells contains a program that is not written in electromagnetic form, but is written in chemical form. 8 souls came out of Noah's Ark. So whether you like it or not, that person sitting next to you is related to you. Now, in the spirit world, there's a spiritual DNA, the thought realm, which we have already considered and defined to be a spiritual DNA. It has a structure. The structure is always in a certain pattern. According to that pattern and structure, it will produce after its kind and will produce itself. Metaphorically speaking, when we are reborn in Christ, He instills in us a sort of new spiritual DNA that makes us hungry to tell others about Him. I find that just this so interesting. I run into this, and I talked to my friend the other day. I was brought up in an environment where I was programmed to not like myself, to feel insecure about myself. And it's out there and can work against me. Sometimes when it gets frustrating, like what we're experiencing right now, I could easily go, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to walk away because this is going to happen to me again, and what I'm doing doesn't make any difference anyway, right? That's that insecurity. And that insecurity wants to come up to me and put its arm around me and say, hey, remember me, BJ? Or remember us, BJ? But I can't help but admire the ability he has to act with his heart rather than those Christmas Eves when you were walking around in your hometown attitude. And think you were looking in the window of other families. Carefully edited script. So envious of what they were doing and how lonely you were and how you were able to handle without a father adversity. Remember that? How comfortable you got with that feeling? Remember those Christmas Eves when you were walking around in your hometown? We were around and to make you feel in the window of other families. You weren't alone. And you remember that, BJ? So envious of what they were doing and how lonely you were. And I'm not saying you were out basically without a father. And I'm not saying you're going to slip. Remember that? Remember how comfortable you got with that feeling? It is possible. Remember when bad things happened to you? If you talk to people that knew me were around 30 or 40 years ago to make you feel and that you weren't alone them about my current DNA. I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah, you'd be laughed at. And I'm not saying that's not the BJ I knew. No, that's not him at all. But I am saying that it is possible. But somehow, some way, if you talk to people that have been able to alter my 30 DNA or 40 years ago, and you told them about my current DNA spiritually to the much better. Yeah, much better. You'd be laughed at than where I was headed. That's not the BJ and physically. No, that's not him at all. So I bring up the DNA. But somehow, some way, and I bring up I've been all able this to alter my DNA, that there is hope, and spiritually for everyone. And trust me, folks, much better. I can do it. Much better. You can do it than where I was headed, spiritually and physically. But you got to reach into that bag. So I bring up the DNA. I reach up to him, and I bring up all and ask him to help you help yourself. That there is hope. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want us to be dependent on him. For everyone. He does want us to respect him. If I can do it, you can do it. He put us here to do a job. God has equipped you. not to have him come down reach into that and do the job for us, or reach up to him. And the more we work and ask him to help you help yourself, and that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want us to be dependent on him. And the more we grow in general, he doesn't want us to respect him and those around us as well. He put us here to do a job, not to have him come down and do the job for us. DNA. And the more we work born that way, his will. Well, I guess the answer to the question is, yeah, we are. And the more we grow, more correctly stated, we are reborn that way. And those around us as well. The choice is ours. Are Christians born that way? It's not always easy. And we need help. We need help from up above. We also need help from our friends, or maybe Christian more correctly stated, we are. People do want to help you. Born that way. But if you run around with a black cloud over your head, the choice is ours. I got my hand up in the air. I was there. It's not always easy. People just don't want. And we need help. We need help from up above. We also need help from. Is that who it is? I'm trying to think of that name. Yeah, Christian and otherwise.
Yeah, the cloud over him all the time.
But if you run around with a black cloud over your head, signal on the radio station is mixing with YouTube, and I've got my hand up in the air. I was there. Oh, anyway, I don't know whether you can hear us on YouTube or not.
On Charlie Brown.
But we're going to continue. I'm trying to think of that name. You can hear us otherwise. Yeah.
He had the cloud over him all the time.
Remember, World Soccer Cup. What happened? Signal on the radio station. Remember that mixing with YouTube. 50-plus yard field goal. Oh, remember anyway, Dr. Ben Carson. I don't know whether you can hear us on YouTube or not, but we're going to continue, and the chains of emotions that are around you. DNA, get yourself some good vibrations. World Soccer Cup, what happened? Instill them. Remember that 50-plus yard field goal. Remember Dr. Ben Carson.
Oh, I wish I knew.
Break the chains of emotions that are around you. Get yourself some good vibrations. Instill them. What's going on, Mr. Anderson?
Oh, I wish I knew.
Got you muted on YouTube and listening to MMU.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yep.
We do. You go to the extra effort.
Yeah.
That is, I don't like to use this word out of context, but that's awesome. That I say out of context because the only awesome thing I know is our Lord.
Yep. Well, we're going to take a break here in a couple minutes. I've got another story that again, along the lines of Donald Trump. Wonder if there's a national DNA. You think, Mr. Anderson? And we're trying to break the chains of that national DNA?
Well, that's a good question. You think about Israel in the Old Covenant and the Old Testament.
But God judges nations.
And he had the nation of Israel. And I don't know what all the other people around them, if they had a different DNA or not. Well, actually, everything has a different DNA, right? I mean, DNA is a part of the code system for whatever created thing is.
Yep.
So if you're a dog, your DNA will be dog DNA.
When I walk, I see a lot of that.
Dog DNA laying on the road?
Yeah, steaming and otherwise. Oh, my goodness.
Time for a hard break.
Yeah. BJ Edwards well earned. BJ, appreciate your patience with us this morning. I have no idea what's going on, folks. We need help. We need technical help.
Who are you again?
BJ Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson.
That's me.
Your last call.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards on WTVOradio.com.
These are crazy times. Crazy times. Again, appreciate your patience, folks. We're doing the best we can to get the word out. I don't know whether you're going to have to do it on replay or stick with us. Appreciate you sticking with us, though. I was talking about, I want to get to the main subject today that I want to talk about. I'm going to make a proposal, but before I do that, we were talking about the salty president. And this is some more good news. You know, you really got to appreciate what the guy is trying to do and what he is doing. You really do. I mean, I'm a little upset with him about the budget. I think money's the power to make decisions, and he shouldn't be giving it to other folks. But it is what it is, and I'm sure he might have said that when he signed it. It is what it is, and I got to do what I got to do. This is from the Western Journal. A long-time Democratic New York State legislator declared earlier this month that he will support the Republican Party until Senate Majority Leader, that's an oxymoron, Chuck Schumer, can restore sanity and honesty to the hard-left Democratic Party. State Assemblyman Dov Hikind of Brooklyn slammed Schumer's attacks on President Trump's hard-right agenda, which were part of a fundraising appeal by the top Senate Democrat. According to Hikind, Schumer goes to great lengths to fully villainize the current administration.
I got a good clip on that.
But leaves out, okay, we'll play that clip in a minute, but leaves it, or is this the same clip?
I don't know.
But leaves out his fellow Americans and Democrats. Let's go ahead and play the clip and see if we aren't being redundant here. Again, this is lawmaker Dov Hikind.
The president would consult with Republicans and Democrats in the Senate on a qualified judge, and then after careful deliberation, nominate a jurist that could get bipartisan support. What we have here is the exact opposite.
Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
Well, look, President Trump is fulfilling his campaign promises with the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh. I'm going to fight this nomination with everything I've got. We must defeat Judge Kavanaugh. He's a deeply, deeply conservative justice, way out of the mainstream. He would make it far more difficult for regulations to exist to enforce those laws. Judge Kavanaugh would be the second most conservative justice on the court. He has undone environmental protections. He's challenged them. He is a deeply conservative justice. They can turn the clock back in America. Years, decades, maybe centuries. Is it any wonder that President Trump chose Kavanaugh from the list of 25? He is almost certainly the most hard-right of all of the 25. He's no neutral arbiter. He's already made up his mind. And he wouldn't have been approved by the Heritage Foundation if they weren't certain that he'd repeal the ACA. This man should not be on the bench. He wouldn't have been approved by the Federalist Society if Leonard Leo wasn't certain that he'd repeal Roe v. Wade. He is way, way, way to the right of the American people. He is not a mainstream judge. If anyone believes that Judge Kavanaugh or anyone else on the list would uphold Roe v. Wade, then I have a bridge to sell them. Judge Kavanaugh got the nomination, not because he'll be an impartial judge on behalf of all Americans, but because he passed President Trump's litmus tests. Anyone who gets the Good Housekeeping seal of approval from Leonard Supreme Leo Court and the Federalist Society, Judge Kavanaugh will be schooled from the Heritage Foundation, as his most recent predecessors, to reveal as little as possible about his philosophy and personal views in the confirmation hearing. Judge Kavanaugh's back. I can't comment lest I bias myself political case. seems exactly like the kind of man President Trump would want on the Supreme Court. I believe he is Judge Kavanaugh will be schooled, as his most recent predecessors, to reveal as little as possible about his philosophy and personal views in the confirmation hearing. Gee, Senator, I can't comment lest I bias myself on a future case. We might be in a different situation.
Do you believe Judge Kavanaugh is an extremist?
I believe he is far, far right on so many issues. And that's why the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation, groups that are not in the mainstream, have chosen him, have pre-selected him. Had Donald Trump chosen someone from off the list, which I urged him to do when he called me, we might be in a different situation. Thank you, everybody.
I know what he perceives. What's the mainstream? Please, progressives. The election is over with. What's the mainstream? 614-423-4220. Love to hear from you. What is the mainstream that this is allow him, Senator, to do what we elected him to do? I know what he perceives. And if the majority of people don't like it, please, progressives, then there's another election. The election is over. We have them every 4 years. Donald Trump won. Every 2 years, we have representatives. All you can do now, and some senators are elected as well, is allow him to express your opinion that way. But to continually stir up this poison day after day after day after day after week after month, been going on for 2 years now. So what happens to your DNA when you continually hear all this? Those vibrations, those sounds, does it affect you? Does it affect the national DNA? You betcha. You betcha. We're becoming schizophrenic. One side of the mind doesn't like the other side of the mind. Thanks to the Schumers of the world. And yeah, there are those on the right side too. Two wrongs don't make a right. But when I hear folks go on talk shows, and there are issues to be directed right now. There are issues with the FBI, with our intelligence community. There are issues with our morals. And all you hear is, well, they're just as bad as we are. We're not resolving the issue at hand. We're allowing them to multiply and grow. And we have to stop this insanity. And I think that's part of what Dov Hutkin from Brooklyn was trying to accomplish and trying to bring out. As he says, what he wants to make Democrats to say all Americans should be aware of. There are positives. Representative Hutkin says, or points out the booming economy, the low unemployment rate, all-time record lows for minorities, economic confidence at a 17-year high, energy dominance in the U.S. There's the Trump's tax cuts, which are benefiting tens of millions of Americans. By the way, Hovind is Jewish descent. He lauded the Trump administration's decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and the current remarkable relationship between Israel and the United States, and also praised the president's decision to remove the U.S. from the Iran nuclear deal. Senator Schumer, he says, you asked for a contribution, but the Democratic Party, which I am a lifelong member of, is currently betraying the ideals that our party once stood for, American values. And you yourself proposed that Representative Ellison head the party. But you must surely know that Ellison has stood with our nation's leading hate monger, Louis Farrakhan. He then cautioned Senator Schumer, as a fellow Democrat, Schumer must work to restore sanity and honesty to our party so I can feel good about supporting it fully. Until then, I'm afraid the Republicans have my support. Oh, and by the way, Hutkin's not seeking re-election in New York State. But he does have a history of supporting issues that are pro-American. And good for him. Good for him. We are a porn star. I was listening to the local news this morning, and somebody talked about how it wasn't a good thing, and the next caller, oh, how judgmental you're being, and we need to be diverse. My God, where does the diversity end? When sanity begins, that's where it ends. There is, and there are environmental restrictions that should keep us from going off the cliff. But when you remove those restrictions, we call them laws. They protect the innocent. They assure order. When you remove those restrictions, when you remove those ordinances, when you look the other way, and by the way, when you see that happening to our servants in Washington, D.C., looking the other way, lying about it, benefiting from it financially, while the rest of America is falling apart, it kind of affects the way you feel about things. Doesn't give you much hope. Dealing with a lot of groups that are trying to change America, and they all have an idea that's what's best. Again, some think if we end abortion tomorrow, then America will be healed. Others believe that all we need to do is put the Constitution of the United States at the head, at the top, almost to the point where it's worshipped. Maybe that's not a fair statement. But anyway, where it has a number one priority. Scratch that worship, a number one priority. And if we do that, if we have the Constitution up there, and people understand it, then that'll cure America. That's the manifestation of our sins, of our amoral society. The manifestation is the Constitution. But the problem is, in America, we have a moral problem, not a constitutional problem. Yes, abortion is part of that moral problem, as is gay marriage, as is pornography. How easily we accept that. As is the abuse, as is the government taking children out of homes, as is our government-run education system that teaches children that life has no meaning, that morals are relative, that they, man, are the measure of all things. And, of course, the state's your daddy. In slavery to the state. That's not what's going to fix America. We need to fix the moral problem. We need to relearn. Gosh, that sounds strange, but we need to relearn the difference between right and wrong. How do you do that? To got some ideas.
Tune into the Bible.
At least a starting point. It is. We need to get to the Bible, and I agree with you, Mr. Anderson, but part of the teaching of the schools, of the news media, of the entertainment industry, of the government, of business, and even some churches, not all, is against that. When we come back, I'm going to make a suggestion. It's not going to cure everything, but I think it's a step in the right direction. This is B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call. Hope you're hearing us better today. And I hope I'm in sync with my mouth.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
It don't matter if you're by my side. I'm satisfied. Well, it's all
Pelosi
even if you're old and gray. Well, it's all
needs to be put away, as Maxine both have lost their minds.
well, it's all right.
You got it, brothers. You got it, brothers and sisters. If we had strict adherence to the Constitution, there's a problem, and that's a man problem. Because we're interpreting it, it's subjective, and we're deciding what the difference is between right and wrong. We being the democracy of America. We, the democracy, the entity that got Christ put on the cross, right? We made a decision that he should be the one that should go to the cross, not another sinner. Last week, I proposed 4th of July holiday, post 4th of July holiday, that we pledge allegiance to the family of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation of families under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we turned our focus to the family and paid more attention to it, and again, when we talk about family, we are talking about one man and one woman, one blue and one pink respectively, in a lifelong committed relationship with their biological and or adopted children. That's the core. That's the content of the family. I'm going to talk to you about three aspects of the family. The content we just talked about. There's an order in society that is perpetuated by the family. And I would say, personally, I believe that if you don't have that order in the family, you will not have that order in society. That order works best historically and psychologically when you have the father as the head, the mother. You want to get that, Mr. Anderson? The children? Okay, I didn't know whether you heard it or not. The children in that order. That's the structure of the family. One more important aspect, but before we do that, we got a caller on the other line. Caller, your first name and what's on your mind?
Good morning, DJ. This is Barbara out of Atlanta. How are you doing?
Barbara, I'm blessed, doubly blessed. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, been a long time.
It's been a long time. The only excuse
No excuses needed.
Like I told you a long time ago, I'm not a social butterfly, but I got told by my son, because I don't own the phone, and with AT&T, they don't do conference calls. They charge for everybody that's on the call.
Oh, okay.
And so I couldn't do that. I can do this, and that's not a problem. But he changed companies. He went to Cricket now. So anyway, I hope to call in on Sunday with the conference call and see how things are going.
Okay.
But it's good to hear y'all. And, what you've been talking about this morning, oh, golly. I just couldn't sit still and be quiet. I just, I'm going to gore a bunch of oxes. So. Oh,
go for it. All right, let's go.
All right.
Gore away.
So we're going to gore some oxes. All right. I've spent an awful lot of time trying to understand what's going on and who is really at the bottom of this. And it started when I started I was looking at Trump, and I realized that he was a Mason, and that his family, his dad and his grandfather were also Masons. But then so was George Washington and a number of the founding fathers. So not all of the Masons are deviant. Now, there are those that are extremely deviant, and the Chucky Schumers and the Mad Max. Of course, Mad Max is not a Mason, but God help her. Anyway,
I've got a note from one of our folks that a progressive from New York is more communist nowadays than a Russian from Moscow.
Well, yeah, and I think that I have called in to other programs, and I tried to make the point that language is extremely important, and what we see playing out in front of us right now is nothing more than a rerun of the Bolshevik Revolution that occurred in 1917 in Russia. And when they call them Antifa, those people are the Bolsheviks. They are mindless brown shirts. They don't. They are the communists. All right, and I have also discovered that Bibi is in bed with Putin.
Israel, Bibi, right?
You got it.
Okay.
And then he has also got this country by the short hairs, because what happens is that every year when Congress reconvenes, the elected officials, I'm not going to call them ours because I don't vote for them anymore, but nonetheless, the elected officials, in fact, we don't vote for them. They're selected. But nonetheless, have to sign a loyalty oath to the ADL. Okay? And the only, let's see, Cynthia McKinney refused, and Ron Paul refused. And so they demeaned Ron Paul, and they ran Cynthia McKinney out. And, of course, she had to go to Bangladesh. And I was working then in this, and I am basically still in the same district. But she really, everybody, or the media, the corporate media was doing their level best to make her look like she was a lunatic, because she met with Gaddafi before he was murdered, and then she was on those ships that were trying to bring materials and supplies to the Palestinians. Well, it turns out that the Palestinians are not all a bunch of Muslims. They are Christian. And in fact, they're more Semite than the individuals that occupy.
Now, what do you mean by Semite? Some of our listeners may not know what that means, and we're going to have to go to a break here shortly.
I don't have my dictionary in front of me, but Semite, as I recall, includes Hebrew, and it includes tribes of, Judah, the tribes of Judah, and to include the Hebrews. So if you were to look that word up, and I was using the 1942 dictionary to find that out, that's what I remember. That's what I recall. Okay, so the Bibi and his comrades, and again, this requires they're Ashkenazi, they're Russian Jews. Let's just call them that. they're not. They're Jews that say they're Jews and they're not. Okay? And you can, of course, refer, you know more that you know about the Bible better than I do, but as Jesus was,
opinions vary.
Referred to, right. Israel is not a geographic location. We, the Christians, the people who believe in Jesus, who believe he is our Savior and the only path to God, especially, in the next life. We're Israel. We're also of the tribe of Judah. But we carry the Holy Spirit, of course, within us, in our soul and so forth. And nonetheless, because it only makes sense. Look at how the state of Israel, Rothschild, had an agreement with the British Crown to set up, through the Balfour Declaration, to declare that land and take it from the Palestinians and call it and give the Eastern Jews a place to go.
Barbara, I'm gonna have to cut you short because we're gonna have to go to a break. But you are definitely concerned about what is happening in America. You're talking a lot in detail about some people that are serving their father, the devil. And regardless of where they are in that position, they could be top in the Illuminati or they could be bottom here in the United States, but they're all serving the master of the world, the devil. And as a result, America, our children, are suffering desperately. Barbara, I've got a trifold that I'm going to get out to you. I think I have your address around here somewhere. If not, I'll get with you. And I would consider it an honor if you would share that with your friends, and if you could make it on our Sunday evening calls for the natural family Minutemen, we'd greatly appreciate it. Barb, thanks very much for calling in. God bless you, Godspeed, and God protect you and your family.
Thank you.
Alrighty. I'm going to make a proposal when we come back from the break. Something I want you to really consider strongly. And again, if you want one of our trifolds, the Natural Family Foundation trifolds, please contact us. Let us know. Be more than happy to help you out. We think they're very important. We think the movement is very important. I don't have all the answers. The Natural Family isn't perhaps the answer, but I think it's a lot closer than most people realize, and hoping that you'll consider it. Natural Family Strong, naturalfamilystrong.com is our website, and obviously we're going to need some help with the website. We need some help with the radio station. If we get it out, great. If we don't, it is what it is. I pledge allegiance to the family of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation of families, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. I had talked about structure and form, and I need to finish that conversation. And thank you very much for the call, Barbara. Encourage others to call, 614-423-4220. Love to hear from you. That was a blessing to hear from Barbara. It's been such a long time. When we talk about the family, we're talking about the content, which is the male, the female, the children, the structure, how it's put together. You have to have authority, where the authority comes from. The other thing is practice. You have all those pieces together, but what does a practice look like? What it doesn't look like is spousal abuse, drug abuse, looking at pornography, not being there to help out, letting somebody else educate your children. Is education important? Is education important? How important? You got the answer to that question. And you turn that over to complete strangers. Sometimes you know what those complete strangers are thinking and how they're going to affect your children. And don't be surprised when you send your children off to government-run schools that 12 years later, after the indoctrination, they send back complete strangers. Don't be surprised at all. How much money and how much time would you spend now after you've had that government-run school, public school experience? How much time would you spend? How much money would you spend to get your children back? What would you give to get them back? Look what they're doing. And they're going to be the next leaders. Whew. Boy, we sure need something to affect that DNA, don't we, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
We do have the trifolds I mentioned earlier. Jesse Lee Peterson. I talked to Jesse this week. I love what he's doing. He's promoting a White Pride Month. Now, Jesse Lee Peterson is a black pastor. And on his radio show, YouTube show, he's promoting White Pride Month.
Why is that?
There's a lot of ways you could respond to that, but I think he's trying to stimulate thought, provoke, if you will. Sometimes you got to provoke thought. I'm going to say this, and I don't know whether it's provoking thought, but I think it's something that we need to consider doing. Something, forgive me, Jesse, I think that's even better than White Pride Month. And that is a Natural Family Strong Month. I want to change. You can keep the pledge, the old pledge, but I want to put another pledge above it. And that's for the family, the natural family. But what about a Natural Family Month? If you're thinking along the right lines, you're saying, well, why not a Natural Family Year? Natural Family Strong Year. Just need to emphasize the importance of the family. How we could have not gotten here. We would have not be here today if it wasn't for the family. Think about how disorganized things would have been. I mentioned before that early on when it was just Adam and Eve, or one man, one woman, you can name them however you want to name them. And they were fortunate enough to have a child or two. What kept the animals from consuming them? And when they formed a larger family, what kept the animals from getting to them? There had to be some unity. There had to be some cohesiveness to keep those families alive. And I talked about language before, too. Language had to come pretty quick. I don't think that man and woman would have made it grunting here and there. It had to be a little more sophisticated. And obviously a lot more intelligent. Think about that. And then going in an organized manner from Africa, if you will, to Eurasia, climbing up and coming down through Alaska, going down through Canada, North America, South America, getting to Australia. The complexities of all that. I could even make a case in terms of the intelligence of early man. The wheel, fire, the ability and knowledge to use all that. That's pretty special. If you had a choice between the wheel and the computer, which would you take? Well, I'd take the computer. Okay. How are you going to drive to work? And by the way, early on computers used wheels. Mm-hmm. Remember the old tape decks? Just saying, every generation thinks that we're so much smarter than the previous generation. Oh, how intelligent we are in the 21st century, right, Mr. Anderson? We just know it all.
Yeah, except we still can't figure out how the Great Pyramid was put together.
There's other things, too, that we haven't been able to figure out.
I like to back up a few years and think about Noah and his ark. That's no small thing. And what he put in the ark, among animals, was 4 families. He made sure that he had 4 good families that he preserved, along with all the other treasures that he asked to be preserved.
Could you see the giraffe or the elephant steering putting the mast up? Yeah.
Yeah, can you see the chimpanzees getting together and building such a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, 4 families.
Yep. We've just...
That was the restart, right?
Yep. Of the DNA. I just don't know how we could have gotten to where we are today without the family. I can tell you that communists know the importance of it. Mm-hmm. Satan knows the importance of it. What did he do in the Garden of Eden? What's the first thing he did with the young couple? He started a division in the family immediately. And that family included God to begin with. And then they kind of went out on their own, and things changed a lot. But without the family, again, it's so obvious that we take it for granted. We take it for granted in our own families, to the point where we have divorce. Yeah, let the kids have another father, or none at all. And we play around with sex, the pill. Man, if there's a God, I don't think he's happy. I think he's got a lot of grace, but I don't think he's happy. And this communism, that is just incredible. Not when you take the family, we have to separate. We have to make sex important, make you important, individual, not as a family member, but individual. Make that important. I chuckled. I read an article by Mike Huckabee the other day, and it was talking about free money and practicing communism. I promised somebody I would put this on the air today, so I got to insert it now or not. Using some obviously easy-earned money from Facebook, co-founder Chris Hughes, Stockton, California, is launching an experiment to test a guaranteed basic income. 100 lucky residents will receive $500 a month, or as it used to be called, hitting the scratch-off lottery. If it's popular, and why wouldn't it be, at least those getting the free money, supporters hope to expand the idea nationwide. We're so dumb. Note, however, that even at this early stage, it's not really free government money because the government doesn't have any money of its own. Stockton, California is where this is taking place. Is famous as the second largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy. You got to wonder why, right? As with all lame-brain, harebrained socialist schemes, the money is coming out of the pocket of Hughes, who earned it. And is going to people who didn't earn it. But Hughes claims it's no longer possible for Americans to advance and succeed on their own in our capitalistic system. So says the young multimillionaire who got fabulously wealthy off of creating one internet site. This initial program covers only 100 people. Stockton alone has 300,000 residents. If they expand it to just 2/3 of the population, that's, you got the math on this, Mr. Anderson? That's 100 million a month. Where will the money come from? And how will they accommodate this massive influx of freeloaders?
Trees. It comes off of trees.
Plus, but we have to import Mexicans to pick all the money off the trees, don't we? Plus, the USA has about 320 million people, a big percentage of whom want a guaranteed basic income from a government that's already over $200 billion in debt, not counting unfunded obligations. Wonder at what point we'll hit the Margaret Thatcher threshold of running out of other people's money? I'm guessing in a month or two. Still, if wealthy socialists want to give all their money away to random strangers instead of to Democratic politicians and PACs and bankrupt themselves instead of America, then I'm all for it. Fund away. In other words, all you liberals put my money in somebody else's hand. Put your money in somebody else's hand. I started to talk about this earlier. A lot of talk about the pension problem, pension funding. Yet we're taking money and giving it to foreign invaders, and they are invaders. They weren't invited in here. They didn't come through the right sources. Now we got to find them, give them free DNA. Now I got to wonder if that DNA isn't coming from the government, if they didn't start that business to get everybody's DNA. Just a thought, just a thought. And we have veterans who can't get good health care. Yet we'll take that same health care and give it away to invaders, to people that don't respect our country, that wouldn't fight for it and probably have relatives that fought against it. And that's okay.
Put up the wrong flag.
Yeah. I'm thinking downtown Columbus.
Well, and the Mexicans that wave their Mexican flag on American soil, and kids at school getting sent home because they got an American flag on their T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen those stories.
Come on, America, wake up. Wake up, America. I think we can do this by using the family, by focusing on the family, to use the double entendre there. I think that is one of the key issues that we have to address. If we fix the Constitution, whatever needs fixed there, and abortion, and gay marriage, and you don't have the natural family, what do you have? B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. Love to hear from you, 614-423-4220.
faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards on WTVOradio.com.
Yeah, Bill Miller. Not all, not all, not all. So,
I do have an interesting clip. You might.
Okay.
It kind of, I don't know if it's off topic or not, but it might be in line with the restoring the morality of our nation.
Boy.
If you, in Alabama, has kind of a unique thing going on. I don't know if you've heard of this, but
I'm about to.
Special vote for God in Alabama. They're putting on something on the ballot.
Oh, yes.
You have heard.
Yes, go ahead. Please play on. I think I know what this is. This is good stuff.
I'm hoping that it plays here.
November the 6th, 2018 will be a day that will go down in the history books in Alabama. The Ten Commandments Amendment will be on the ballot in November, and Alabamians will have to answer the call. And the question is going to be, will Alabamians say we want to acknowledge God, the God of both the Old and New Testament, the God that is in the Declaration of Independence, or do we not want to acknowledge that God? And the world will stand and watch to see how we vote on that day. Alabama will be ground zero in the cultural war. We've been witnessing the end of the Western Christian Empire. And we have an opportunity as a people, as a state, to come together and show the world that we want to acknowledge God, the Christian God that this nation was founded upon. 17 years ago, I wrote an amendment to the Constitution of the state of Alabama, and I got two sponsors, Gerald Dial and Dwayne Bridges. And that was 17 years ago. And it's taken 17 years for that amendment to pass the House and the Senate. And now it will be on the ballot November the 6th, 2018. And the entire world will watch as Alabama goes to the polls and they tell the world, yes, we want to acknowledge God, or no, we don't want to acknowledge God. And we will give an account, Alabamians, on that day of judgment to the God of creation as to how we voted on that day. You can count on one thing, and that will be the bad guys are coming. And I'm talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center, I'm talking about the ACLU, I'm talking about the Americans United for Separation of Church and State, atheist groups, fake churches, and fake preachers. They're all going to come because they don't want our children being taught that there is a right and there is a wrong. They don't want our children being taught that the Ten Commandments were given to us by God, the Creator, the same God that's acknowledged 4 times in our Declaration of Independence. I want to encourage everyone to tell your neighbors, tell your churches, get involved. Please go to our website, www.tencommandmentsamendment.com, or our Facebook page, Ten Commandments Amendment, and keep up with what's going on. And if you can help financially, we're going to need it. On November 6th, please join me in voting yes on Amendment 1. And let's show the world that we do care about our children, and we do care about the direction our country's headed in. And we can make a difference, and the world will be watching to see what we do. God bless you, and God bless the United States.
Sometimes you have to have some background, a background scene. I mean, you look behind us, and we've got marriage is still one man and one woman, and Christian men, America needs you now. Natural family strong. Remember, Natural Family Strong Month. Why not start the movement? Why not start the movement? The problem, let's not lose sight of things. The background is the family. That's the background. The problem is our morals. And if you look at keep in mind the background, today's natural family, today's modern family. What do you see in the background? Whew. My goodness. Is that not an ugly picture? Two men bringing up a family, or two women bringing up a family, with all kinds of transgender, pornographic, you name it, it's allowed in the family.
TV, PlayStation, telephone, texting, sending inappropriate pictures to one another. Even in good families, this stuff is going on.
Sloppily dressed.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Long hair, maggot, never mind. He who frames the question wins the debate. We're trying to frame the natural family. We're trying to put that as a background. We're not losing sight of the problem, which is we are an amoral society. Again, when we're defending a pornography queen.
Now, there's an interesting way to put it.
And not the father, not the mother who's at home teaching the children with the picture of her standing over the children reading the books.
Norman Rockwell pictures.
Mm-hmm. And the father taking the son with a fishing pole out to fish. And yes, maybe even a gun out to hunt. Okay.
And that twig of grass in the teeth.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
And the little puppy plopping along behind. Yeah.
But we're going to have to change things radically, because this diversity, which is, come on, be honest, diversity means anything but the Bible. Anything but the Bible. Everything but the Bible. Everything but what's natural. And the key is natural. It's a wonderful word. Wonderful word. We were designed, we're a natural design. And we live best in the world that nature creates for us. We can flourish in that world. But if we try to change that and become unnatural, I've used the example of putting water in your gasoline engine. It's going to sputter if it works at all. So we want you to focus on the natural family. Understand what it is. Understand what it is. Understand how it functions. And I've said before, it's like when you try to talk to somebody about Jesus Christ and you want to convert them. They need to know who Jesus Christ is. The Bible's very explanatory, the living word. That's Jesus Christ. So that's what we're talking about. Now, we need you to internalize it. If you're going to convert somebody, you need them to internalize Jesus Christ, the Word. Become part of them. Become part of their DNA. The same thing with the family. We want that to become part of a national DNA. And strong families don't just happen. They take a lot of work. And they take a lot of time to learn what it is that's going to make them work better in a society which is should be designed for them, but currently is not. Again, our government-run schools teach multiculturalism and diversity. I'm okay, you're okay. Anything you want to do is fine. Disregarding any kind of natural consequences that are going to happen. You hear stories about fathers, mothers having their children taken away from them because they're not allowing them to express their unnatural desire to be the sex that they weren't born. That was not a mistake. That was not a mistake. Your sex is never a mistake. I'm sorry, it's not a mistake. And you're equipped to be able to handle that sex. Yeah, I get mad at things and I want to change them. But sometimes that's temporary. When you put the drugs and do the surgery with young children, you've made a lasting impression on that child. And God help you. God help us if we allow it to happen, but God help you if you initiate this. And then 20 or 30 years later, that individual recognizes that they really are the sex that they were born. What then? Yep, there are people out there that do experience this. Some will admit to it. Others not so much. But it is what it is. You cannot mess with Mother Nature. You can't fool with Mother Nature. Is that how that goes, Mr. Anderson? You can't fool with Mother Nature.
It's not nice to mess with Mother Nature.
We really need to pay attention to what's going on in our world. We're here to educate you. We're here to motivate you. And we're here to promote what is right. And it's not what I think is right. It's been tested, time tested. Well, we're talking to you about history. Take a look what happened to Rome, the Roman Empire, to Greece and other empires who started messing with the content and the structure and the practice of the family. In every case, they were overcome. They no longer exist. And I know in the case of Rome, and I haven't done a lot of research on Greece, but I know in the case of Rome, those were barbarian families. The number one outpopulated the Romans, but also had the authority over those plebeians, those citizens of those states, and eventually took them down. Sociologists, they'll tell you the importance of having a mother and a father, one male and one female. And children know the difference. Inherently, perhaps. By design, perhaps, but they know the difference. And they need one each. Not one of, but one each. And they certainly don't need several parents or sets of parents. A son needs a father image. It puts them at such a disadvantage when they don't have that. Again, sociologists tell you. Then there's the prison systems, which are full of folks that don't have natural families. Mostly the father was missing from the family, but they didn't have that natural family environment. And this isn't easy. This takes a lot of work, and a lot of patience. And yeah, it might be boring. And if you want excitement, just walk away from it and let those children raise themselves. No. Let society raise them. Yeah. Well, BJ, that's what's happening now. You're absolutely correct. That is what's happening now. And that's what we're trying to change. All we know is for sure that if you don't have the family, and we're talking about the natural family, if you don't have the family, you're not going anywhere as a nation other than down. That's a fact. All righty. This has been your last call. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Hope, number one, you're able to hear us. And number two, what you heard you did enjoy, and that you maybe learned something from us. Natural Family Strong month. naturalfamilystrong.com. We need all kinds of help. Prayer first, action second.
check out that Alabama thing. Maybe there's a movement.
Yeah, we're trying. I tried to get a hold of that gentleman and hopefully get him on the show. I can't guarantee it, but I'm trying to do that. I know he's a busy man. Again, thanks for listening today. This has been B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call, mmunited.org. Catch us on YouTube, B.J. Edwards. Thank you very much.
God bless all y'all.
Join us next week on WTVOradio.com for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.